Hello, everybody. Thanks for joining us in this APPI Learn by Doing webinar, which we do a couple of times a month now. Today, we're really going to be talking on something that is really of utmost importance, and I hope I'm going to motivate you guys to take action this new year, 2018. And it comes down to learning how to trust yourself. Trust your deepest self and your communication channel and everything that is truly basic to you. And I hope to make that really clear and actually motivate you to use this in the ARV precognition context. By trusting yourself in the way I'm going to outline, I believe you'll be able to get as good as you'd like to get at doing precognition. So, I've introduced this symbol really to get us focused on one of the objectives of both APP and APPI is to make a profession out of precognition. We want to develop, find, nurture precog pros, people who can do precognition well, make a profession out of that, have them earn money just like any other professional. And part of this, and this is really rather important and I think under realized, is that if this is something which you wish to do, you need to integrate it into your life. And all of this, the precognition work and your life, all actually support each other for what I like to now call a purposeful, creative life. What we're doing here is just, and the fact that you are here shows, I think, that you appreciate that we're really doing some wonderful, mysterious, cutting edge work. And it's something which needs to be integrated into your life so that you can take the appropriate time and intention for it. Okay, so what we're going to do today is I'm first going to talk about ARV. We have some newbies. We'll review it. We'll review for the old bees, if you will. And then I guess that was an old one. And then we will get into this whole idea of trusting yourself. Kind of another possible title for that is Trust in a Precognitive Universe with Uncertainty. So there are uncertainties, there are things out there. Nevertheless, through all that, you need to learn to trust yourself. And then we'll be doing a ARV prediction. So let's get into the ARV work. The Associative Remote Viewing in linear time is actually quite straightforward. There's nothing complex about this once you accept that the precognition event, what you're doing here, is real, namely that you can describe and sketch your feedback target. This is a target you're going to see in the future over here. But given that, then the procedure is very straightforward. Here is when you do your remote viewing session, you get quiet, and you will trust your inner self, and you will describe and sketch what you're going to see in the future. That is the one skill, your ability to describe and sketch your future feedback target. So accepting that your consciousness has that capability is, in a way, part of the work, because no matter how long we're in this field of precognition and ARV, we still somehow begin to doubt that it's real because we are raised to think of things only in linear time and that there's no way that information can come back. But the fact is, we can do this. Most of you have already seen examples of it. Hopefully you've done it yourself. That's when it becomes absolutely clear. And except for the intellectual doubt which pops up every now and then, it is this feedback session when you'll see what we call a feedback target. I'm going to talk about that in a minute, that you know the truth. And the universe is able to work, it does work in a fashion where this truth can be shared with earlier times. And so there's a real entanglement between these two times. It's just the way the universe works. Time is not the way we were taught to think of it in terms of a cause, and then effects always happen after causes. This feedback session is a type of cause which in one sense can transmit information back through time. It shares information with earlier times. Okay, so you remote view here, what you're going to be seeing here. Now, the analysis judging session is absolutely critical for associative remote viewing, because here is where you make a judgment about whether you want to take any action. In our case, as you know, we're mostly focused on doing wagering, largely because we want to educate society. That's one of APPS and APPI's objective, is to educate society, and money talks to society. Science has done its job and proven it already using science, and there's nothing but a big yawn. It's certainly not integrated into our society in any way that remote viewing things at a distance in space and time is possible. Here is where we will be making a judgment which will allow us to do a wager. And that's what I want to show you. And that's the association. So what we're focusing on is binary ARV, where we are going to be asking yes/no questions. Okay, so we have a binary question. Hey, will the stock market go up tomorrow? We're much more sophisticated than that now, but that would be the kind of question you could ask. Now, since there are a yes/no question, two possible answers, it makes sense that we would have two possible targets. Okay? Notice this is possible. One possible target is associated with yes. One possible target is associated with no. When we know the answer to the question we're asking, then we'll know which of the two possible targets becomes the actual target. And that's the target you're going to see here. You will always see what actually happens when the answer to the question is known, which is in linear time between when you do the judging and your feedback session. So the event is in here someplace, but we're making a judgment here based on how good our match is with the target, knowing that this target here is the actual one. And if there's really a good match to the yes, then it would make sense for us to take an action based on the yes, and similarly for the no. But we're looking for a good match, and typical yes/no question might be something like, We converted it into an over, but will the stock market go up? For stock moves, we use up and down. For sports, we use things like over under, favorite, winning team. They can always be converted into a yes no. That's basically ARV. Two possible outcomes, two possible targets. We look for the match to what's going to be the actualized target, what actually happens. And based on a good match, we will then potentially take action. Now let me show it to you again in okay, I don't know what's happening here, not responding. Boy, I hope I don't have to get a new computer. That is a hassle. Okay. So let's do this now from another perspective. Realizing, again, the three things we went through. Remote viewing is done first. In linear time, we do the judging, but precognition truly begins with the feedback session, because what we are doing is purposeful precognition. This is where you know the truth. And this is kind of the viewpoint that you want to get deep down in your gut, in your inner, deeper self, that everything really begins with the feedback session. This is very important. This is the truth point. The tasking will always be describe and sketch your, and we use a 6-digit number, feedback target. Just like we said, describe and sketch your feedback target. Now, let's talk about what the feedback target is. In our case, we use photo sites. Some people actually went out to physical sites. Some people have used objects. They all work. We use a photo site. So what's a photo site? A photo site refers to a particular physical site location at the time the photo was taken. So yes, you're going to see as your feedback target a photograph of something. Okay, so it will be a photo. However, a photo is just a two-dimensional thing. A photo by itself, sure, you'll be able to see colors and you'll see shapes, but you don't get sounds. You don't get all the things that consciousness picks up if you were the photographer, say, taking the picture. Okay, so your consciousness is expected to move to that site where the photo was taken, at the time the photo was taken, and describe and sketch what can be readily verified or inferred from the photo. Now, why is that important? Readily verified or inferred from the photo. Well, here you are doing your remote viewing session, and your consciousness can describe all kinds of things. It can describe things that are 100 yards away from where the picture is. It can describe things that were done at that site 100 years before. And that's actually happened by accident with some remote viewers. That's what they did. Now, but if we're going to be judging this, I'm a judge here. I want to, when I look at the two possible pictures, remember we've talked about there being two possibilities, I want you to give me information that I'll be able to verify from the photograph. Otherwise, I won't be able to make a good choice, and I'll probably just pass. So your job is to describe and sketch what can be readily verified or inferred from the photo. So certainly, you know, that's the big picture stuff you'll see from whatever is in there. Is there water? Are there mountains? Is it a city? that you would see when looking at the pictures, the colors, the shapes. You get a sense of dimensions compared to you. Is it something really big? Is it a picture of an ant? Is it a picture of a galaxy, a mountain, whatever? But you'll get a sense of dimensions. And then, of course, you can get all the other things that your senses do: sound, smells, taste, tactile sensations, emotions. This whole idea of remote viewing um, allows your whole nervous system to be activated. That's how the information is given to your conscious mind. So your deeper self, your higher self, whatever you want to call it, and I just call it the subconscious self has access to this information and it wants to share it with you. Well, how's it going to do it? What better way than through your own nervous system? So all of your normal senses are available for reporting, and that's what you do. So that's what a photo site is. And when I say describe and sketch your feedback target, your target is a photo site, and it's your job to describe it in terms of what can be verified from the photo. So it's remote viewing, but the tasking now is this tasking. Describe the photo site. Okay, so the target is the feedback photo site, nothing else. Now, there are two possible targets. One is the actual feedback target, okay, what actually happens. But since there are two, yes, the other one is the decoy. The only one who should pay particular attention to that is the judge. You as a remote viewer, you couldn't care less about that. Obviously, you know enough about ARV to know that there's something like that out there, but guess what? It's your job to ignore that. It's your job just to describe and sketch your feedback. So the idea is really rather straightforward, I think, but to the extent you have questions and comments, that's ARV in a nutshell. So if there are any questions or comments, go ahead and, okay, no? Fair enough. And as you all know, I'm readily available. I'm an email person. Anytime there are questions or comments that come later, always feel free to email me. Okay, let's now talk about trust and trusting yourself. I just want to start at this level of our lives are all personal journeys. And they're really personal journeys when you really think about it in consciousness space. Every moment, your life is a collection of all of your conscious moments. And yeah, there are conscious moments in an objective physical world. Yeah, there's a physical world here. I can pound on my desk and I can feel that. I can hear it. But notice what I said. I can feel it. I can hear it. It is my own consciousness that gives life to everything, gives my life. It's my consciousness. I don't know any other way to say it. Consciousness is fundamental. And that's what the journey's all about. Now, your consciousness is this thing just in the moment. But we know there's more to it. There's this submerged consciousness, this subconsciousness part of you. We know it's there. If nothing else, you have memories of earlier things. What is that? Where does that come from? It comes from the subconscious. So the subconsciousness, in a way, you can think of as being everything that has come from each and every one of the conscious moments, but the subconscious has access to all of that right now. The right now is this conscious moment, but you've had past conscious moments, you'll have future conscious moments. All of that is saved and available from your subconscious. And what makes it even more spectacular than that is that apparently every sentient being, all of their conscious moments, past, present, and future, are available to your subconscious. We just have so many examples of that seems to be the way our universe works. So let's just accept it and let's move on. Let's integrate it into our lives. Okay? And that's what this is all about. It's self-actualizing, being the most you can be, the most you want to be, um, and do it yourself. Other words they use here are things like self-realization. You're realizing that this information is available to you, that you can access it, and you do access it, and you learn how to get better and better at it if that's what you want to do. Now, I believe that ultimately it is a personal responsibility. And I say darn it because don't you wish somebody could just tell you exactly how to do precognition, how to get ARV right all the time? Other questions, how to live your life. I mean, everything we're talking about here is one aspect of life, but it really generalizes to almost all the other aspects of your life. And I think you'll see that by the time we're over. But, you know, we come here and we ask all these questions and we want teachers and we find teachers. I mean, when we're young and as we're growing up, they're out there and then people are teaching us things all the time. But at some point in time, in some endeavors and inner work, precognition, things like that, fall into a category where even the best teachers can't teach you anymore. You need to do it on your own. That's a very important concept, and I think it's really important to take in. At some point, you need to accept total responsibility for going to the next higher step in your self-actualization. Now let's talk about trust. Self-trust is the first secret of success. Emerson, Ralph Waldo Emerson, famous author, said this. Self-trust is the essence of heroism. When I came across that one, I thought, well, that was interesting. What do they mean by that? Well, but think about it. If you go out and you listen to gurus and stuff like that and you trust them, well, that's fine and that's good. But in some ways, you're making them like a mini hero to you. They know more about something than you do. Okay, that's why you went to them. You went them to learn something. But now what happens if you go to yourself? You go to your inner self and you trust your inner self. Guess who the hero is now? The hero is you. The you that is asking the inner self as well as the inner self. Your whole integrated self now becomes a type of a hero. So I really like that. Now let's just go through a definition, first of trust and then of self. Okay, when I use the word trust, this is firm belief in the reliability, truth, ability, or strength of someone. Okay, so that's trust. Relationships have to be built on trust. So you're trusting usually somebody else, but now how about trusting yourself? And here are a bunch of synonyms, which don't, trust is like deeper than all of these. Trust has its very own deep meaning. And this is perfect. Good relationships are built on trust. Your subconscious and conscious mind need to learn to truly trust each other. And that's this communication channel that I like to talk about, because the information is somehow communicated from a deeper subconscious part of yourself, your inner self, if you will, to the conscious part of you that experiences this now. And that's the trust. Now, what is the self? This is a pretty good definition. A person's essential being that distinguishes them from others, especially considered as the object of introspection or reflexive action. And then they have a bunch of synonyms. Now here, I thought the synonyms were really quite good because they include things like soul and spirit and mind, the I, oneself, the ego. It's like the self is all of those that are connected to you in a way, but the connection with the non-physical self. Notice we're not talking here about physical stuff at all. And then here, I love the example, listen to your inner self. Now here was another statement which I came across, and this one was very interesting. This one's from Golda Meir. Trust yourself. Create the kind of self that you will be happy to live with all your life. I almost didn't want to go any further than that in sharing this with you, because think about that. Trust yourself. Create the kind of self that you will be happy to live with all your life. I mean, the assumption here is the exact one that we're talking about. Namely, that you can trust yourself and that you can create the kind of self that you want. You can be self-actualizing. And then she goes on, make the most of yourself by fanning the tiny inner sparks of possibility into flames of achievement. And that's very powerful as well, because that is what we really do when we see the possibility of doing precognition and doing it better and better. Those are the tiny inner sparks. Every now and then we get one of these sessions that is so unbelievable. It blows your mind. You show it to other people, and you'll share it as you should and stuff like that. Or you'll see other people's. I mean, that's okay. It's better when it's your own, and that'll happen. But why can't you do it more reliably? Why can't your hit rate go up further? Okay. Well, those are the tiny spark you see when it happens. Sometimes, in fact, that there's this possibility of bursting into these flames of achievement. Okay. Now let's connect this a little further. Logic will get you from A to B. Imagination will take you everywhere. Einstein really introduced in a number of ways this idea that imagination is everything, that it's really important part of any kind of inner work, really. He did so much imagination in his scientific work. He imagined all kinds of what-if situations, and he was just this deep kind of inner thinker, and he acknowledged he got stuff from who knows where, but from, I don't know if he would use the word subconscious, but, you know, and he was very spiritual in the sense of knowing that he was touching something which was very, very large, much larger than, the individual ego self. Imagination is everything. It is the preview of life's coming attractions. How do you like that? Preview of life's coming attractions. Even here, a hint of getting information from the future. Here's the connection with intelligence, which I love. The true sign of intelligence is not knowledge, but imagination. As important as what we know now is direct knowledge, imagination, in fact, is more important, and he would say the true sign of intelligence. The fact that you can imagine something new, the fact you can imagine something and then create it, manifest it, that's a true sign of intelligence. Another concept I want to bring in now is believing, and I'm going to bring all of these together in terms of what I believe will help all of us do better ARVing. Okay, so believing. Roosevelt said, believe you can and you're halfway there. Gandhi, if I have the belief that I can do it, I shall surely acquire the capacity to do it, even if I may not have it at the beginning. Okay, so we all have heard this before, but it's true. Getting to not only believe it, but believe and do what everybody has been telling us is this is the big step that we need to all get to and activate in our own ARV world. This idea of dream it, believe it, achieve it, all of this is the kind of material which has been given to us in so many different ways about manifesting in our lives. And what I want to ask you all to do right now, and this is perfect timing because we've just gone through New Year's, you've probably made New Year's resolutions, and I would like to see if you are willing to choose a percentage number here and get into the point where dream it, believe it, achieve it. What percentage would feel comfortable to you that's pushing you beyond where you are now, would make you feel terrific when it manifests, and you feel comfortable enough that you can do it? In other words, you don't want to now choose a number like 100%. I don't think any of us actually believe that we can be 100%. I personally believe there's some sort of uncertainty principle out there, which is a marvelous part of the universe. It gives it all kinds of opportunities for creativity, accidents and chaos, and out of that seems to come a magnificent new kind of order sometimes, often. So 100% I don't think makes sense. And I'm talking about achieving and maintaining it. So you've all seen your hit rate curves, and they go up and down. But wouldn't it be nice if, say, you feel like you'd like to get up to 70%? That sounds pretty high right now. How about 60%? Do even 60% on a 50-50 proposition. If you can do 60% and you can make your hit rate curve oscillate between the say 65 and 55, so that 60% is clearly your long-term average. And I'm using in my mind a 25-day average, but a 10-day might be just as well. But let's say for 25 days, you can keep your 25-day hit rate average right around 60%, plus or minus 5%. That's terrific. Okay, that's good. Once you achieve that, maybe you want to make it 70%, 65%. But I want you right now to choose a number. Okay, choose a number. It's your number. In fact, you might want to write it down on a piece of paper, because I would like you to commit to achieving that. And then we're going to talk about how you might do that. But it's got to be your number that feels comfortable. And I want the dream to be a reasonable one which is reasonably easy to believe that you can achieve this. Okay? So, this now is just like other resolutions that you've made, your New Year's Eve resolutions. I love it, right? And I just read that only 8% of New Year's resolutions are in fact kept. 8%. So with the best intentions, most people are not able to do it. And that's not, a surprise. All of us have tried to do our dieting or one resolution or another, and for lots of reasons, we often are not successful. So the question is, what does it take to be successful? There's your answer. There's your answer. If you can trust yourself, when you think everything is someone else's fault, you will suffer a lot. When you realize that everything springs only from yourself, you will learn both peace and joy. So we have lots of reasons why we don't succeed. Hey, I had to go to this party and I had to eat. Come on. We all, million reasons, personal reasons for not, in fact, keeping to the resolution, which was very important to us at the time. Okay. And usually there's blame. Usually we blame someone else. I think more and more people are, especially in our community, beginning to realize that blame is a true loser. And since we have this inner power, it really makes no sense to blame. Everything springs only from yourself. And that is where peace and joy come from. So trust yourself as part of it. Now there's a new name here I want to introduce. I've been following him now for, a couple of years maybe, Mike Dooley. And he has one of these things. He'll send out from time to time emails with stuff like this in it. And he's good. You might look him up on the internet. He's got lots of really good videos out there. He kind of goes along with the ideas of Abraham And you'll see that here. Here's what I got on the 3rd, okay, today. I'm telling you, synchronicities are happening to me more and more all the time. And I think that's just natural when you get into this whole area. But here's what he wrote. Simply put, Martin, okay, the reason there are things you want that have not yet appeared in your life is because you're just not used to thinking of yourself with them. Sorry, kind of wish it was more complicated. Just keep practicing. Now, what does he mean by that? You have not yet appeared in your life because you're just not used to thinking of yourself with them. It's not comfortable yet. You're not used to thinking of yourself with them. Well, what's a way of getting used to thinking of yourself with them? How about imagination? How about going into your inner self and defining it? That's what he's, I think, implying here. And you just have to get used to it being that way. Resolutions, or any goals you set, are about more than just the desired result. This is so true. They're about who you become in the process of attaining them. When you take these resolutions, these serious ones, these important ones that are meaningful to you, why are they meaningful to you? Because you're not there yet. You know you will be a different person. Yeah. And they're more than just the desired result. Yeah, I've lost 20 pounds and I've kept it off forever. That's my new weight. That's the way I am now. Okay. Well, you're now a new person. And how did you get to be there? You changed. And in many ways, that's as an important part of the resolution as the actual thing itself, is the realization that you can make resolutions, you can manifest them, and you can continually become a new person. You can create your new self. The best predictor of success is how prepared you are before you begin taking action. Notice all of this stuff is stuff that goes on inside you, in your mind, in your spirit. How prepared you are before you begin taking action. If you choose to make a resolution for the new year, don't rush into it yet. The first step is to prepare by asking yourself, what would it be like to be someone who does what I want to do? What would it be like to be a 60% ARVer, a 70% ARV, reliably? Okay? You do the next 25 and you're going to get 65% right, 70% right, 60% right. What would it be like to be someone who could do that as a matter of course? That's the new you. You're not there yet because you want to resolve it. What does this person do? Okay? What does he feel like? What does this person say? What does this person think? What does this person feel? What is this person like? That is this 70% ARVer, 60% ARVer. Okay? It must be different than you, right? The way you are right now. So spend this this upfront time really getting into what it would be like. Okay, here it is. Here's the magic of it. How I want to put it to you and hopefully get you to actually do something with it. First of all, just accept that consciousness is what is fundamental. And it is fun. I mean, what an amazing thing it is that we have life. Okay? Okay. So it is the fundamental thing, much more fundamental than the physical world. We experience the physical world with our consciousness. Now, the preparatory work, that's the thinking about what it would be like to be a 70% ARVer. Imagine what that would be like. What does it feel like? What does it evoke in terms of your actions, your feelings, your thoughts? What is it that you do that is different than what you're doing now? You're not a 70%er yet. What imagine it you being different somehow. What is different? Get into the feeling of being that 70%er. And then imagine yourself, and this is where the thinking and the imagining comes in, actually be it. In other words, start getting comfortable with it. What is your life like now? It's when you are a 70%er, you still go to bed at night and you sleep and you dream and everything. But what does your life feel like during the day? Is it different? Are you still doing everything exactly the same? Aren't there any changes? Why is it that you're resolving to be a 70%er? Spend time just imagining all that and then be with it. This idea of being with what you resolve is the key. And notice all of this is non-physical. You can use meditation tactics for this. You can just sit and think about it, but spend time doing it. Hey, you could do a remote viewing session on it. You're talking to and thinking with and imagining with your deep inner self. All of that is done in the non-physical plane first. That's where it's fundamental. Then you go out and you start doing things somewhat differently based on what comes up with this non-physical reality. You will have ideas, you will have thoughts, which will then relate to the physical world, and you start making changes, usually small changes, but sometimes dramatic. You just have to go with the flow. It's you, and you're conscious of this whole process. And it'll be unique to each individual. That's why I can't tell you anymore. This is self-actualization. And then love it all. Emotions are a part of this. I just love the whole process. And yes, money, I wasn't sure I wanted to bring money in because what we're talking about is deeper than money. But you want to know something? You are right when you think money isn't everything. And look at the date on this. I got this today, so I had to share it with you. You are right when you think money isn't everything. You certainly do not need money to have joy in your experience, But in your society, where so much of what you live is tied to money in some way, most of you associate money with freedom. And since freedom is a basic tenet of your being, then coming into alignment with money will help you establish a balanced footing that will be of value to you in all aspects of your experience. So, I mean, it's true. And yes, let's go out there and make money. And in doing it, the process, especially as we're talking now so deeply with building up this really strong manifesting communication channel between your deep self and your conscious mind, this really will establish a balanced footing, and it will impact your entire life, because the exact same techniques work, and this will all start happening more and more naturally. Okay. Now, emotions, feelings, and decisions. We haven't talked too much about emotions, but emotions are an important part of this. And I don't think any of us really think emotions and feelings may seem trivial, but obviously they're important. But it's the bottom line of this statement that I really wanted to share with you. And then this author, and he did a scientific study on this, has found that people who lack an emotional reaction to a situation, struggle. So they don't have an emotion being part of this. They struggle to make a good decision in that situation, even if those people are otherwise quite intelligent. And emotions, what basically this shows is, and again, this was a scientific study where they took people, I think some might have had brain damage, so they didn't feel emotions. Others, they just asked, questions of them. How are they feeling emotionally about it when this decision came up? What this demonstrates is emotions are guiding, I don't know what the right word is, are guides in a way. Again, trust yourself. Well, emotions are part of you. If something feels good and positive and helpful, man, give energy to it, support it. If it's negative, walk away from it. And I'm putting this out to you in the context of keeping your ARV resolution. So while you're doing the inner work, what you're going to find is emotions are going to come up. While you're doing even the outer work and you get a miss, emotions are going to come up. Well, examine those internally. Always go down to the inner self and ask, what's going on? How do I feel about this? And maybe what should I do about this? You don't want to keep doing the same thing, which will only result in the same thing. You want to come up with some new ideas and directions. Those are going to come from yourself. This power has always lived within you. Claim it. Yes, claim it. You have this power. Everybody has been telling you this forever, that you are a magnificent human being, okay? And you essentially have unlimited capabilities. Now, what limits those capabilities? And I do believe it's fear, in all of its different formats, negativity, in one form or another. All of these are signs of fear. And when you're going forward with your resolution, there will be fear that will come up. And part of your job is to kind of identify when it comes up, because it's a guide. It's a guidepost. So it's this that may very well be limiting me in a major way. And then you need to work on the fear and move through it, dissipate it, eliminate it. When you imagine yourself fulfilling your resolution, is the fear still there? Probably not, right? It's gone. Why would you be afraid of achieving something that you want to achieve? Well, there may be things in you that are afraid, and that's why you're not there already. Now, how about this one? Our deepest fear is not that we are inadequate. Our deepest fear is that we are powerful beyond measure. It is our light, not our darkness, that most frightens us. Wow, you mean I could really be that good? What would that mean? It's not just in some of us, it's in everyone. And as we let our own light shine, we unconsciously give other people permission to do the same. That feels so right to me. I hope that resonates with you. You know, we talk a lot about the fear of failure. You know, that's kind of easy to understand. But what about the fear of success? What is your life going to be when you're a 70% ARVer? You're not going to be doing all the same sort of things, especially if money is part of that, because at a 70% reliable ARVer, APPI will be able to make you a professional precogger, and you'll actually be able to earn a profession. You'll be able to earn a living. Professional precogger. Do you want that? You've got the power to do that. Do you want that? So our deepest fear is not that we're inadequate. Our deepest fear is that we are powerful beyond measure. Wow. It is our light, not our darkness, that most frightens us. The enemy is fear. We think it is hate, but it is fear, which is interesting because we do talk about love being so positive and that hate would be worse, but Gandhi identified fear. We have met the enemy and he is us. That's that famous Pogo statement. And this says, you know, there really are no outer enemies. It's all internal. It's all the inner self. It's all you. Courage is resistance to fear, mastery of fear, not absence of fear. So, yeah, you know, you're a human being. You've lived a life. Fear is part of it. In fact, fear is often very valuable. That's one of the reasons we learned it. You know, you don't want to put your hand on that stove because, yes, it's going to hurt. Okay, so, you know, there are reasons for fear. But are there reasons in this instance with this ARV resolution? So the courage is to master the fear. Not that you're not going to have it. In fact, you probably expect it. More and more, I'm coming to believe that it's moving through the fear, dissipating it. That is the secret to keeping all resolutions and moving forward. Life can never be fully gratifying if we don't become aware of our own inner power, our connection to the God force energy. this was a picture of an egg, which I came across, but this leads to this following, which I think is very beautiful. If egg is broken by outside force, life ends. If broken by inside force, life begins. Great things always begin from the inside. Okay, so what all of this has done, and this is actually a somewhat different primary objective than a lot of my other lectures, webinars, discussions, is to really motivate you to do this and to stick with it. You've got the power to do it. It starts from the inside. Choose a number and then watch what happens. One of the things about this type of resolution and many others is that they're long term. This one in particular, you're going to have to do, say, 25 sessions to see if you can get up to your 60%, 70% percentile and get there and remain there for a while, forever. That's your objective, is to be a reliable, and I don't know what number you put down, but why not have a number like that? And then when you get it, you know what? You can raise it. But the process, what we're talking about here, is, at least what I believe, is the most important, significant process for creating your own life. Taking full responsibility for it, because you know you're powerful enough to have whatever you can imagine. And now you have to decide what it is you want to have, what you want to imagine, and then do in your life. Okay, I'm stopping now, and let's see if there are any questions before we go on to the prediction. Any other questions? Let me look in the chat box now. I haven't been able to do that, and all I'm seeing now is, I agree with Corey, I'm for 100%. Well, okay, I'm glad some of you share. Very good. Okay. And let me share something with you as I'm reading this. Evelyn, you have 80%. A few years ago, that was what I put out as being the kind of objective, which I believe was achievable, was 80%. Okay. Millie put...
Well, Marty, there's a reason why I put that.
Okay.
You know, I went all the way down to 20%, and I have worked really hard, and I'm back over 70% now. And it's taken me 3 months to do that, and I'm feeling really good about what I'm doing.
Well, that's terrific, and you just keep doing what you're doing. Have you been using approaches similar to what I've been discussing here in one form or another?
Oh yeah, I use your stuff and stuff I glean from everything.
Okay.
I really think that one session that Lori talked about, the gestalts, that sort of gave me a good place to start, because I'm kind of, you know, I need a little bit of direction and organization. I'm a little bit ADD, so I've been making myself, you know, focus using that to start with, and that gets me started, and then I do better.
Okay, very good. And it does sound like you're using other people's suggestions and stuff, but you're taking total responsibility for it now.
Well,
Now,
I'm
Millie,
an education junkie, so I've always tried to find out everything I can find out about something I'm interested in, and I would love to take a class from Lori. I think I'd really do well with it. But yeah, for all you newbies, there's lots of YouTubes out there, and there's lots of stuff on this website and the IRVA website. And don't be afraid to, to start listening. And it all doesn't sink in to start with. You have to make some mistakes and blow a few judgments and all that, and then it starts making sense.
Okay, and Millie put 70%, Corey put 67% minimum, and shoot for 100. Can't argue with shooting for 100. The problem with that is you don't have a real measure. I prefer your 67% first in terms of a specific resolution, Corey. Because if you say 100%, you just, at least I believe, now it matters what you believe, but I believe that's going to take longer and harder to ever get to. And so shoot for something that feels more comfortable as your resolution, and then go for it, and then you can achieve it. You can see yourself manifesting that and still having a miss every now and then. 100%, man, it's tough to be perfect. What happens when you get one miss? You're no longer at 100%. So, well, hey, this is me. I'm giving you my reflection. I'm just a person just like you, and all of us are right on the forefront here of this precognition journey. Okay, let me see what else. Previous webinars. Kristen, 95% too high. Let me connect this to money for you. If you were to be 70%, now I said 80%. Way back when, and I still believe that's going to be where we go. And I think when we get to 80%, we will now start having a super big impact on society. Because at 80%, will be able to make as professionals a lot of money, enough money that will get noticed, even if we don't want to be noticed, just because it'll happen. 70% will do the same thing, but it's just a little bit slower. If you're a 70%er, and I've now got one Precog Pro person who did that. He made a lot of money relatively quickly. So 70% is good enough. And I know he was going for more, and a lot of going for 80%. Nothing wrong with that. But you don't have to aim for 100%, because you'll have a big impact in your life at even 65, 70%. So why not go for that first and live with the whole process of getting there? You see, it's this process of manifesting that's actually more important than being at 65 or 70%. So why not go for something that you can feel more comfortable with? And I think you'd agree, 65, 70% is more comfortable than 90% or 100%. Okay. I'd be happy with 30%. Corey, 30% in a sustained way is just as hard as 70% just doing things by chance. Now, maybe somebody wants to try to become a 30%er by being super negative, and they think they can do that, and that's fine, and we can turn that into money as well, as long as it's reliable, because 30% just by chance is as hard as 70%. Okay. I don't know what that is, so I'm going to close it. Very good. Any other questions, comments? Again, I think it's just really important to recognize that this manifestation process, which is what we've talked about, keeping, well, what's a resolution? A resolution is something which you want to manifest in your life. Okay. The process that we talked about on how to do it, trusting yourself, using your inner self, that whole process is something which you'll be able to use in all aspects of your life. And I'm suggesting you use ARV as a really good example of that right now, since here you are trying to improve your ARV. And I've proposed what I think is the best way to do that. Trust yourself. Okay, let's go to a new prediction. So now we're beginning to get into our ARV mindset. We're going to do a prediction. I think we know, describe and or sketch, sure, and we'll come up with a coordinate shortly. I don't even have that yet. Coordinate, or sometimes it's called a transcript reference number. That's what TRN stands for. Or target. Actually, target reference number is better because this is intimately connected with the feedback target and nothing else. Okay, so this comes from Daz Smith, who's been around this field for a long time. And one of the things that all of us have recognized is that our subconsciousness tends to communicate with the conscious mind during remote viewing sessions with sketches, which are very important, and they usually give you partial images, but also words, usually at the level of a vocabulary of maybe a 5, 6, 7-year-old, the guy who, uses, well, colors, of course, a lot of different colors, knows smells, chemical, aromatic, earthy, tastes. These are the kind of words that people use. Dimensions. Dimensions include the geometry of something. I think that the shape is very important. In the picture, no matter what the picture is of, there will be shapes which will make that picture relatively unique. The colors might very well help form the shapes. The contrast between the colors form the particular shape of objects, but the shapes standing alone are important. But you can also get things like motion. Even though it's a snapshot, if it's a snapshot of a guy throwing a football, you know that there was motion going on. And you can pick all of that up. And notice under dimensions, he has moving here is one of the words he's used. But these are the kind of words that you'll typically get. And you try not to name. If it turns out that the target is the Eiffel Tower, you're mostly not going to get an Eiffel Tower, and you might, but that's called an analytical overlay. You're more likely to get, tall, metal, triangular, triangles, lots of people around it, stuff like that, and not the word Eiffel Tower. So that's what we see, and that's what you should expect as we go into this. The only other thing I want to emphasize here is this idea of intention, attention, and expectation. Right now, you ought to be, and I am for you, setting the intention that you're going to describe and sketch the feedback target that you're going to see a month from now. And that should be your expectation. You're going to expect to do that. Sure, I can do that. I'm going to be getting all this good information. And then you're going to always be paying attention to what your subconscious is giving you into your conscious mind, all aspects of it. So both Joe McMonagle and Ed May, no, Joe was first author on this, and he's the best remote viewer, public remote viewer out there. Ed has done the scientific work forever in this field, way back to the SRI days till now. And they said this is very important, and indeed it is. So stay very aware to setting your intentions and expectations. Now, consciousness is indeed fundamental, more fundamental than time, and we're about to do this purposeful precognition. I've said this enough, I don't have to say it again. This is the intention part, and that goes both during a remote viewing session and feedback. Your intention at feedback is not only to entangle earlier, and at feedback time that won't change anything, but knowing that you're going to be doing this in all of your future sessions helps every remote viewing session, because in fact you are doing it. You are doing what you said you were going to do. And then expectations are very much the same. Okay, now we're using the winning entanglements, the We protocol, and everything is done online with that. I just didn't have time today to do the normal setup, so you are going to have an opportunity. Wait a second. Yeah, you're going to have it. I have to find it over here. To actually see me set up from scratch what we're going to do. And so you will understand that everything is absolutely blind. So what you're seeing now is I am now wearing my hat as the group manager for the webinar workshop group. Okay. And I'm not going to go, I'm not going to try to teach you that, but I just want you to actually see it. So our transcripts will be due, and what I'm putting in here will come up in an email, which will be the way we're going to get our coordinate. So the transcript is due today. And yes, no. Now, the event. Let me show you the event. Okay, so this is, and many of you have seen this before. This goes way back to when we first started doing these month-long predictions and actually instituted this webinar series, was with the question of, will Hillary Clinton win the next U.S. presidential election? And that was many, many months in the future, and we got a hit. And since then, we've done like 34 more predictions. We do them all for a month. In fact, there's one coming up soon. Will Trump be president on January 20? When we did this, right after he was elected, everybody, well, not everybody, but a lot of people felt he would be either assassinated or impeached. But we did a yes way back then. But what we're going to do today is this one. Will the NASDAQ composite index close under 7,000 on February 5? And I'll motivate that for you a little bit in a moment. But the reason I copied and pasted that is I put that into this event name here. We've now defined the event. The event date is then 18/02/05, and right, so that will be the date, and then today's date is the 3rd. Okay, so now that I've done that, let me show you what happens with my email. Notice I just got this instant, this email, and if you're in one of our groups, and I hope all of you are, and the newbies, just email me and I'll get you in a group. You would get the same thing with your group name here, Carve or Financial Group, whatever. We have like 15 groups now. And notice what it says. It indicates the event. Will the NASDAQ composite be under just what I put in? And then it's got the start date, the transcripts, and now it's got a link. So what I'm about to do is click here, and then this is what standardly comes up. Now, in our groups, okay, now putting in my email address, in our groups, every individual in the group would have their own photo site, their own target, feedback target. And so that's why you put in your own name here. So that identifies you specifically. I will represent all of us here now, so we'll only get one coordinate. And then webinar workshop comes up, and then one coordinate. We can talk about two coordinate maybe some other time, but for now we're just doing one standard ARV coordinate rather than two. And there we are. So on a sheet of paper, write that coordinate. This is the first time I've seen it as well. And you might even start saying it out loud. I have a feeling that's 700976. You saying it out loud is very different than me saying it out loud. It vibrates in your body, down into your deep inner self, knows that you're saying it, and say it with the intention of saying it out loud again at feedback time. Okay, so the next step now is to do the RV session. And then we need to upload it. We'll talk about that later. Right now, let's let's do the so we just got the coordinate, and then this is typical sheet with some help here for newbies, and actually a lot of oldies like it too, because if they stop getting information, they might touch one of these things and try to get a texture or a color or a smell, all the kinds of things I showed you before. But right now on the top of the paper, you can put your coordinate, say it out loud. You always put your name, the date, and the time. So you can do that now. This is getting yourself ready. And then typically what we see come up, and there's never an always, but this is typical, and you just have to be very aware of what happens to you, is we get the big picture gestalts. You know, the kind of things that hit you when you first look at that picture. And then we leave a place here for sketches. Often you get sketches and words back and forth. It comes in different ways to different people. If you use a formal approach, you might very well go through stages and get to the gestalts and then words and then sketches. Here on the right, definitely do put AOLs. That's called analytical overlays. One of the powerful things what you learn when doing ARV is the difference of getting raw information from the subconscious as opposed to being the intellect. Oh, yes, red, round, ball. And when ball came in, it must be a ball. That was an intellectual analytical overlay. The word ball did not come up from my subconscious. It came from my intellect. Hey, it could be a tomato. It could be lots of things that are red and round. You just want to get more information from your sub and not name it, not use any intellectual stuff. Just get the raw information. And then you're paying attention to your conscious mind during all of this. And it's going to give you reasons for contemplation later during the feedback session or whenever. But this information is coming from, and this is really an important part of all of this, something which is sort of grander than your normal, maybe intellectual view of yourself. Whatever you think you are, you're grander than that. Okay, so let's do the cool down. Now, cool down is that time when you get really quiet, you get rid of your day-to-day thoughts, and you go ahead being open to getting everything from your subconscious entangled with the feedback session, entangled with the target that you will experience at feedback time. It is here when you make that connection. All the places you could move your consciousness to, that word move is a good one here. You can move your consciousness to any place, anytime. What you're going to do is move it to your feedback session and start to pay attention to the photo site target, which is right there. Okay, so you're going to be doing that at the feedback session, and you're now going to be sharing that information with yourself at the remote viewing session. Joe actually thinks that's a major fraction. He actually put out the word 75% of the discipline, because in his view, if you can't move to the right place, how can you expect to get the right information? And so you can understand there's some logic in that. So you cool down, you set that strong intention, and you go. Okay, so what we have now is I'm going to give you 10 minutes, and you can decide if that's too short or too long. Most of this you're going to be doing on your own to keep your resolution. This doesn't even count in that context. On the other hand, it does, in the sense that I'd like you to have this deep feeling of wanting to do a terrific job, trusting the power of your inner self. So I'm going to give you 10 minutes. In this particular one, some of you with your coordinate may have already started, and that's fine. If you use this one, which is hemisync, you'll get a 5-minute notice and then a 1-minute notice, and I also will give you a 1-minute notice verbally. So I'm about to click on this. And if you want to use this one, I'll put it in the chat box for you. Otherwise, I'll see you in 10 minutes. About a minute to go. Okay, come on back to your normal waking state. Let me stop this. Okay. Okay, good. So now we go into the judging phase. So you're back with me. Stretch a little bit. Doing the remote viewing session does seem to put many people into certainly a different psychological place, and want to get you back to your normal state here. Judging is primarily intellectual. Okay, your job is going to be to ultimately come up with a yes or a no for the question we raised, which had to do with the NASDAQ index, which is just about where it is now. I'm not going to show you that. It turns out the question doesn't matter. Often, as you well know, viewers are totally blind to the question anyway. But in ARV, you will always, as a judge, come up with the equivalent of a yes or a no. Now, we'll do this by matching two possible targets. And let's just talk a little bit about the judging, because not only do we want to make a statement about which one, which is the primary thing we do, but also how confident are we in that choice. And this is where Russell Targ, when he was at SRI, came up with this 7.0 to 7-point scale, which basically is a confidence ranking scale. And 0, 1, little no correspondence. 2, we would say would be chance. After you do a few of these, you get a sense of what that is. But sort of the obvious things. If you get one or two colors, and you might get a partial shape, but most of what's on your sheet doesn't match a particular picture. You say, okay, that's chance. Nothing wrong with that. You're not going to be on every time, or maybe you're not. Go for 100% eventually. But 3 is the mixture of correct and incorrect elements, but enough of the correct ones that you feel that you've made contact. The viewer, you're the judge now, so you feel the viewer has made contact. So you're wearing a different hat, if you will. And we encourage both self-judging as well as independent judging, but here we're just going to do self-judging. So a 3 is right there. You've now made contact. Yes, you believe that there was some psychic functioning going on here. 4, though, moves up to the next, what's really the significant step, which is good correspondence with several matchable elements intermixed with some incorrect information. So this is the good correspondence. We use 3.5 as being wagerable. Um, you need to have sort of a margin. When will you wager? When won't you wager? We could use 3, but we use 3.5. So you're not just on the boundary. You feel um, maybe you don't feel it's really good, but 3.5 is halfway between 3 and 4. And we've had all kinds of people way back always raise that issue. We used to make them pure integers, but indeed, you can do partial integers. You can do partial fractions and numbers, and so 3.5. 4 is very good. 5 is even better. The kind of words Rush used was unambiguous, unique, matchable elements. So now you can point to few things on your transcript and say, look, this is clearly goes with this target, possible target, because that's all you know now, this possible target. And yes, these are unambiguous, unique, matchable elements, at least more than one. And I'm going to give it a 5. You get up to 6 and 7 when the analytical overlays, the AOLs, either naming the function of the target or naming the target itself. Occasionally someone will say Eiffel Tower, especially if they do a longish session. And then essentially no incorrect information. As you're moving up here, you have less and less incorrect information. So so that's it. Okay, so that's a 0 to 7 scale. Key thing, 3.5 is where you say, okay, I'm willing to wager potentially a few bucks. 4 and 5 are both very good, but 5 unambiguous. Now, analysis and judging is not what your skeptic might take it to be, where if a viewer were to say hidden in the envelope, it's a charcoal drawing of a woodchuck eating a small orange. Nice try, a skeptic would say. You little fraud, that's a long way from an ink drawing compared to a charcoal drawing of a beaver compared to a woodchuck eating a tangerine, a small orange. And the point here is the idea of a metaphor, analogies. It is like, we use that word a lot on transcripts, it's like this, like that. And those are the kinds of words which make sense because the subconscious, to get up to the conscious mind, go through the whole nervous system, go through the whole history of your life, which is stored somehow connected to you and your nervous system. It's going to have a little noise, and it's not going to give it to you just the same as if you were looking at it and experiencing it at feedback time, but it can come close. But this is where analogies and metaphors and things like that come in, and you don't want to stretch it too far. And that's the art of this, is you want it to be pretty good. That would be my advice. You don't want to be stretching it too far. And this basic idea, I attribute to Joe McMonagle. It's a way of actually doing the scoring, which is what we're getting ready to do, is 50% of the weight you're going to give to your confidence level should be based on the first impression gestalt. What that means is that look, when you first see the picture, before you've studied it, you will have impressions. Is it dominated by a giant mountain? Is there an ocean liner, a big structure on top of water? You'll just, first impressions, whatever it is, something from those first impressions, and when you do judging, you will see those. did you capture that in your transcript? So 50% of the weight of the confidence level goes to that. So that's the gestalt, smacks you in the face, gets you in the ballpark. There's usually more than one first impression gestalt. And then 50% of the weight goes to what is a pretty standard counting technique when, if you're working one of the photo sites, say photo site A, you would mark letter A next to each one of those matches, pretty good matches, and then get a fraction of that over the total number of possibilities. So again, this gets to the issue of how much right stuff did you have versus um, not right stuff. And by marking the A on every element, it does that. Okay, and what this allows us to do, is to connect up with a number between 0 and 2. I think when we do the judging, I'll go over this one more time. Without something in front of you, I think it's actually harder to understand. But the first impression gestalts gives you a number between 0 and 1, and then this element ratio is 0 to 1, and then so you have a number between 0 and 2, and then that connects up with the TARG confidence level this way. So Joe McMonagle approach, I've integrated into the TARG 0 to 7 approach, and it's simply this. The 1 gives you the 3.5. Okay, I'm not going to go through the calculation. Let's in fact now get the two pictures. Okay. So all of this in terms of the judging, and I think by now you certainly should be into your intellectual, normal kind of state. Intuition is obviously still around. Remember this page here where we got the coordinate 7000976. You would, from your smartphone, where you might have taken a picture of your transcript, or more and more people are doing it on tablets and they have it already on their computer, and they can go on that same computer to get this website. Remember, this was just a simple link. You then browse and must bring it up into your computer so that you can find it. So when you click browse, this now shows everything on your computer. I think you all need to know, and I think you do know, how to find stuff. So wherever you put a copy of your transcript, you need to upload it. And I did not do a session, so I'm just going to upload a dummy transcript here, and you can see it goes here, and then I'll click submit. Now, as soon as I click submit, we are going to see our first possible target. Remember, possible. We're judging now. So there you go. So this is the first possible photo site. What do you see as the first gestalt that hit you? Motion, water. I get the sense of this geometry of I don't know, going into something. That was my first. Yours might be different. And remember, you're doing this. So it's what you see as the gestalt in terms of the judging and everything that matters. So look at your transcript now. And the best way, I think, to do this, and you'll get the gestalt as you go along, is on your transcript, go through each element. So that means each word. A sketch often might have more than one element, one or two elements. You know, if you drew a rectangle and you drew subrectangles and it was a building, you know, you could give yourself credit, 1A for the building and then 1A for getting the windows, because those are like separate elements. But that's part of the judging. So each element on your transcript, mark with an A. If it's sort of marginal, you might mark it as a little a, and we'll count that as half a point. And then eventually you're going to do the fraction of the total A's over the total possible elements. So let me just give you a moment to do that. And as you go through it for the first time, here for this one with this possible target, this photo site, you will also be noticing whether or not you really indeed captured the first impression gestalts, and you want to note that because you want to give yourself a number of from 0 to 1 on the gestalt as well as the fraction. Okay, now what I'm going to do is, and eventually you'll see both of these. In fact, I'm going to let you see both of them now. This is the other one. Oh, interesting. The building with windows. Sky. First impression is certainly different for this one. And now I'm going to let you see them both here. And here's where we'll ultimately put in the judging. Now take your time. This is the very important step. Remember, it's this step that has us do the action, whether we wager or not on this. And I could make a trade having to do a month in the future on whether or not the NASDAQ is going to be over that number or not. Okay, now what I'm going to want you to do with your transcripts, okay, okay, I see something in the chat, but let me take care of some of the chat box. The coordinate is 700,976. I see someone put the wrong one, and you guys could have turned on your mic and talked to me during part of this, or because I don't look at the chat box, obviously. Even though you used the wrong coordinate, and Joe McMonagle in one of his lectures gave an example of this where he did this. He had the wrong coordinate, but he doesn't really put as much credence into the coordinate as the whole intention of the whole process. And he got a really nice hit because it was the intention that mattered. And so, Kristen, you put in 700,915. On the top of it, you can now put 700,976 and know that it's the same because your intention was always to do the feedback for that. And that's kind of important. Again, it all comes down to the fact that ultimately we are powerful. This is not to be considered delicate. If you consider this a delicate process, you're weakening your ability to make it robust. You know, you're able to do this in a robust way, and getting that into your belief system is part of the challenge here. Okay, yeah, thank you, Katina. Now, when you do the judging, and let me get the TARG scale on there, the 0 to 7, and some people just use that directly without using the numbers, but let me see. Let's see here. Why? Okay, and the TARG scale I can get. I just want to put this on here for your final numbers. It's kind of big, but okay. Now on your transcript, in addition to putting the A's and if there are any first impression Gestalt fig numbers you want to put on, all that's fine. Ultimately, you need to come up with a confidence ranking for photo site A, a CRA, and a CRB. What I'd like you to do is write those, be sure they're visible on your transcript, and because I'm going to tabulate everybody's, send them, put them in the chat box. I will look at the chat box, and there's a way of putting it to the presenter or organizer. Send it to me so it doesn't influence anybody else in the chat box. At the bottom of the chat box where it says to, there's an option to do it, I think, to maybe even to me. It might have my name on it, but it'll have something which will make it clear it's going to the presenter or the Marty or something like that. I don't have that. That's okay. Thank you. I'm getting scores now. That's great. And I will put them over.
Hey, Marty.
Uh-huh.
Did you say the fig, we give it a number from 0 to 2? Is that right?
A number from, yeah,
Like your
I know
fig.
from 0 to 7. Wait, I'll put that up here again. There it is. In other words, for photo site A, give me a number between 0 to 7. So that'll indicate how well that match was. And then for photo site B, give me a number. So you can just write A and a number or B and a number or something like that. Just enough to indicate to me clearly, what you felt your matches were. Did I answer your question? I think so. Boy, my computer is acting funny. This is not pleasant. Yeah, I hope you saw the cool down link in the chat box because I did put it there. Okay. Okay, yeah. Okay, David. Okay, so I'll actually put it under Lori's name. No, I better put it under, it's going to show up as David. Okay, but I know it's Lori. Thank you. And then email me a copy of your transcript. and then we'll be able to discuss them. Okay, so far I have one. Let's wait for a few more, and then we'll start looking at them. Okay, thank you, Millie. Thank you, Lila. Okay, so the rest of you, please keep doing your judging and take as much time as it takes, but I'm going to go now and see if I've got any transcripts uploaded. Let's see. Good. There's Jonathan's transcript. Okay, let me turn that around. I can do that. Unless we all want to stand on our heads, I should be able to rotate that. Okay. There we go. I shouldn't need that anymore. What am I gonna paste it? Oh. Okay. I paste it into this. There we go. Okay, Jonathan. Do you have a mic? Okay. Jonathan, are you still with us here? Let me see.
Marty, I am. Marty, I am. I
Okay,
am. It
good.
just took a while to get to the mic. Sorry about
Okay.
that.
No, no problem. No problem at all. Um, okay, so why don't you kind of summarize? Um, okay, you gave photosite A a 5. Did you judge the other one as well?
Yes, I have a few B's on there, and there was very little correspondence, I felt, to B, and so
Right.
that's why I gave A the high ranking. So you can see the, hopefully see the A's
I
in
know.
green there.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. It's showing up very well. Um, and I guess I'm just asking. You didn't give B a ranking. You always have to give the other one a
Oh,
ranking. But I would say a 1 would work.
yeah, I apologize. I forgot about that
Yeah,
step. I apologize.
that's okay.
Yeah.
No problem. Okay, so now how did you get up to a 5? You've got a lot of A's. Did you think they were a 5 says unambiguous. So
Yeah, essentially,
oh,
I
peaks
was
and
get
valleys, good. Yeah. Go ahead. I'd like you to do the words, not me. Yeah, go ahead.
yeah, basically I was getting a lot of natural imagery and natural
Yeah.
words,
Yep.
and based on my ideogram, I felt that it was saying something about nature too, something that something about peaks and valleys. I was getting a
Right.
lot of water imagery. I was getting like high cliffs type energy,
Yep.
and it's just this feeling of
Yeah.
majesty like you have when you look at a beautiful natural
Yeah.
formation. And then, of course, after I saw the photo sites, I saw that even my AOL was pretty much close.
Yes. Okay, very good. No problem. That 5 looks good to me. Nice. Thank you, Jonathan. Very good.
Thank you.
Okay, so let's see who else. As I say, take as much time as it takes. The judging is very important. Um, okay, so let's now go get another from the email. And, okay, so we did Jonathan. So here's Lori. Okay. I have 2 here from you. Are they 2 different pages? There's a PDF, and I presume they're the same. Let's see if the PDF comes up in the right orientation. Yeah. Okay. Let me get rid of this one. Oops. Oh, it's not going to work that way. Okay. Let me bring this out. There we go. Okay, Lori. Very nice. Good. Hi, how you doing?
How are you?
You've got
Um,
Yeah, good. Just summarize how you got good. You got a 5 and a 2.5. Give us the main elements of what led you to that.
well, the first ideogram, I really had a feeling about that there's a narrow place, like a narrowing place. And
Uh-huh.
then I got with that land and the feeling of going down and biological. And so anyway, I got 4 out of 5 gestalts. 4 out of 5 colors. And the AI, that was pretty good. I feel okay as an observer, but not a participant. That would go with A and not B.
Right. That's and I like the way you did your count on the gestalts. You sort of had a sense that there were what, 3 gestalts and you got 2 out of 3 or 3 out of 4 or something like that.
4 out of 5. 4 out of 5.
Or 4 out of 5. See, that's so you could give a 0.8 then to the gestalt one, and that's a very nice way to do it.
And I had a strong feeling it was water, so I named it in the AOL.
Yep. Yeah, very nice.
I did think it might be fish in a tank too, though. So
You think it might be what?
I also thought it might be fishes in a tank. So that's where I did see the rectangle and multicolor. So I just wrote multicolors, but it wasn't really the fish in the tank.
Right. And you see at feedback time, if this is the right one, that's when you get a chance to work on colors. Okay, sub, this is how I do the colors. But, no, you got, yeah. Yeah. Okay, I don't know what to tell you. That's great. You did it. You've been here before, so you're a veteran now. But it's really good for everybody else to see this as well. Very nice. And David judged it?
No, I judged it myself.
This one you did yourself. Okay. So he didn't do one. I know sometimes he judges for you. Yeah. Do you mind? Do you see a difference?
Well, I don't know. My score is like around 51%, and it hasn't really changed much.
Either way.
Yeah, it was getting better with him judging, and then, well, I'm not saying it's because of him, but I'm just saying I'm still looking for some breakthroughs.
Yeah. That issue of displacement, you really need to look at that. Like on this one, I think you were strong. When you get up to a 5, let me see if I really want to accept it as a 5 as opposed to, where do I have that? Oh, there it is. Would I call that a 5? Yeah, pretty good. You certainly, the gestalts, biological, yeah, natural, even got natural sounds. Okay, if it turns out to be the other one, that just, there's more going on than just straight precognition, and we need to understand that. Or you need to ask your sub, why does it sometimes give me good information about the wrong one? The reason I bring up independent judging is some people think if they're, getting displacement, doing a good description of the wrong one is because they see both. Notice when you do an independent judge, you don't, but then your independent judge has to understand you pretty well, because lots of times there's stuff you'll put that'll only have meaning to you. Okay, let's do Lila. Anyway, Lori, thank you. And that looked like a really good session to me at the level of a 5. I don't consider it to even be a potential displacement unless it's a 5. So.
Okay, well, thanks.
Yeah, so that was really good. Okay, so let me now. Again, I need to go use this. Yeah, every now and then it comes in so I can rotate it, but. Okay, there. And now let me rotate that. There we go. I wonder if I can bring this over like this. Oh, I can. Okay. And then there we go. Boy, doing this in real time is interesting. And so there you go, Lila. So you gave it a 4 and a 3.
Mm-hmm.
And why don't you, summarize how you came to that? Fine.
Sure. So the first thing I got was the water part. See my ideogram of the 3 squiggly lines. That's completely that water.
This here.
Yes, yes.
Okay.
And yeah, so my ideograms are always what I use for a lot of my judging.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like I did see both of them because I put tall. I had something tall a couple of times, and I can't really tell what that is on the left. Are those cliffs? I can't really tell.
Yes. And
Okay.
whether or not I'd call those tall, or whether you're subwood, they're certainly vertical, and I just have no sense of dimensions here, unfortunately.
Me too. Me too.
Yeah.
So okay.
So I
Well,
understand what you're saying, and this is
yeah.
certainly tall.
Yes. Yes. It's very and I think I had on there straight. Yeah, I did. I had for my dimensions straight and tall.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
But that came at the end of my session, and my sub usually likes to throw out a curveball to me and likes to give me the wrong photo site at the very end just to throw me off. So I know that. I know that by now, and I don't pay attention to it.
Okay.
And so that's why I went with photo site A as my choice. I had too many precepts that I had water, my AOLs,
Right.
water, bubbles, snow. That I don't know if that's snow or if that's
No, that's foam.
Oh,
I
that's
think that's
foam.
water. Yeah, that's
Okay, but it
at
looks
least
like
that's what I
cold.
think. Oh yeah.
Yeah. And then where my temperatures are, I put warm at first, and I wanted to put cold, but I didn't, and I should have, because that definitely looks like cold water.
Yeah, that's how I read it too. And you've got the
Yeah,
bubbles, which you get from here too.
Yeah, I had a lot of dynamics as well. So that tells me that it's something biological, something moving. And so that's why I went with photosite A as my choice.
Okay, and with the 4, because you did match enough of the gestalts, and you got 19 out of how many total elements?
Oh, I don't
Might
know.
not have counted them up. Okay.
30,
But
25 or 30.
a lot of people do what you do, and that's okay too. They take into account the fact that the gestalt should be like a lot, 50%, but then they use the TARG scale directly, and you say, this is at the level of 4. I got a lot of good matches, but I'm not going to make it a 5. And that's fine. That's terrific. Okay. Thank you.
Great. Thank you.
And let's do Vince. Yeah. Okay, I'll rotate. Oh, I think it's Picture Manager. One of them allows me to rotate. Yeah, I'll have to do it this way. Here. Here.
We could all move our heads sideways.
No, I'll eventually get it. Yeah. Yeah, there was one we would have to get upside down, but I suppose that would be good for exercise. This one's a little bit hard. I don't know why it's coming in so small. Let me see if I can make it bigger. I can't even tell if it's, oops. I mean, I'm not happy with this. Hold on. Okay, so wait, I'm going to capture it again. It should be captured much bigger. There we go. Okay. Huh. I wonder if that was because.
Marty, did you say you live in California or in Vegas?
No, I live in California.
Okay. If you don't mind me asking, whereabouts?
Do you know Woodland Hills?
No.
Okay, maybe let me just. It's outskirts of Los Angeles, not too far from UCLA.
Okay.
Yeah. UCLA is on the other side of we call the hill.
Right.
You know, wait, this is bothering me for multiple reasons. Why is this one small? Well, you may just, I can't get it any bigger, we may have to just turn our heads. Let me just try one more time. Ah, see, this time it came in big. Okay, so I think that was because. Is that you?
Is that me?
Did I get all of you? Wait, we're spending. I mean, it came in big this time, but no, I didn't get all of it. Okay, one last time. Capture. You can watch me. I'm capturing. Oh no. Here. Okay. Oh, I think maybe. There we go. Okay, that was easy. Rotate clockwise.
There we go.
It was this making this partial and moving it over that then caused the problem with the next one. So I have to remember that. Okay, so there we go. Sort of. Okay, good. And what did you do in terms of your confidence rankings?
I I emailed you on the side. I think 2.5 for A, and the B I missed altogether.
Okay.
And maybe I don't know if the A is, if it should be higher than that or not, but I was looking at it more so what I first pictured was a like a lagoon type setting.
Ah, okay. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So you got
And
the water. Yeah, it's hard to read here, but you got the water.
yeah,
Then, oh,
sort of a
nice.
rugged mountainside.
Right. Uh-huh.
Salty air. I don't know if that that doesn't look like ocean water there.
No, but again, the key thing is you got the gestalt of water here, so that's certainly worth a lot. Tell me about some of the other words. I can't read anything over here.
Over where? Sorry.
Over here, can you see where
Oh,
I'm?
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, it was rugged mountainside, water. I had a beach type lagoon, as I mentioned, like a sailboat,
Right.
oceanside weeds. The smells was like ocean air.
Uh-huh.
Tastes were like salty air. Dimensions were mountains, looking over top and lagoon type of view.
You did get mountains, and you got rugged.
Yeah. Sounds. I just pictured seagulls.
Right.
Cooing, like morning, wind breeze, water splashing, and like an ocean surf.
Right. Yeah. Once you got.
And
Yeah. Okay.
yeah, oh, and basically it was like a morning type setting. That's what um,
Okay.
that's what I
Well,
visualized there.
and you gave yourself a 2.5. I would say getting the Gestalt water, getting the rugged. Um, I don't know if I quite have enough to be wagerable, but I wouldn't have any problem if you went up to 3 on that.
Yeah. Okay.
Because it's interesting. Rugged doesn't always go along with this.
Right.
People are different kind of judges. Um, so that's good. And you're only supposed to get one. You sort of implied you were like disappointed you didn't match well on the other. You're only supposed to match well on one. That's the best of all possible worlds. Okay, so I have no problem, Vince. Very good. Thank you.
Thank you.
It's good to keep looking at what other people do. I think you all find that interesting. I find it interesting too. Okay, let's see who else we have. We did Vince. Oh, I see. That's what you sent the second one for. Okay, Millie, let's take a look at you. And yep, I've got you 4 and 2. And let's. Oh, wow. You must have stood on your head when you submitted it, Millie. Yours came right up. Okay. Okay, very good. So explain to us the logic for the 4 on the A.
Okay. So the big was outside, which I gave a higher
Right.
score on that. And then all the capital A's, which was specifically, I was concentrating on colors, but where specifically, and then the blue, and then was on the bottom part. So that's was a major, maybe half a page or something. I don't know. It was just something I was working on. And so all the fresh, organic, earthy. So I didn't give my grade for warm because I don't know if that was a temperature or something like I didn't grade, but I counted them.
Right. Okay.
And then like open-ended, wavy biscuit. But I didn't get water, which I think might have been a fake. I didn't get that, so I got it more on the description. So I think I just wanted to comment on a fig that I thought I had with an AOL, which was butterfly. But now after looking at A, if you were to like draw the outline of a butterfly, it could possibly be a picture of a butterfly like without the details. But I AOL'd it. If you kind of understand what I mean by that, if you were kind of trying to draw it without seeing it, it might have come out to look like a butterfly, but I AOL'd it. But I labeled it as a fig because it was like a strong impression.
But this is
sure yeah.
Very good. But this is what you drew, what you saw and drew.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's interesting because you're right. This does bear a nice resemblance to this. 2 sides, something down the middle.
Yeah.
What was your sense of the circle? Is that was just a geometry, or was there any more to it?
Probably like living things.
Living things. Okay.
Like living things or something.
Okay. Interesting that you didn't get water, but you got so much else that came from it. The sounds, the noises, vibrating, banging. And you put a question mark because you weren't sure of the word or what?
Yeah, like I guess banging on what maybe or something on the rocks, but I didn't give myself credit for that.
Yeah. Well, it's just a loud noise. This thing is if it's moving, I'm looking at it, this almost looks like it could be ice. We don't really know what it was. My impression of this was moving, and this was the kind of foam you get when you get water moving through a gully. And so you would expect a lot of banging and rustling and stuff like that. Okay, well that's good. A 4.5. Oh wait, why don't I?
Yeah, I think I changed it to a 4 and I copied it already in the computer.
Yeah, you raise it to a 4.5. Yeah, and I'm only giving this feedback for you and um, other people to hear. I feel more comfortable with that being a 4 than a 4.5.
Yeah.
Um,
You had changed it so far. I think that's what I was doing.
yeah, that's what you told me in the chat box. So I'm going to put it in as a 4. Yeah. Yeah, also I'm going to be urging people, it's almost like a New Year's resolution for me all year, for them to be harder on themselves. Because if you're too, gee, I got a 4.5, maybe that you're almost telling yourself that's all you want to do. You know what I'm saying? If you gave yourself a 4 for this, next time I really want to do better. I really want to get that 5, and I really want to get that 6 and the 7. I don't want you to be 4.5 as a 4. Those are good scores, but I certainly don't want your subconscious to say, "Hey, I've got it now," because you know you can do better, and that needs to be part of the conversation that you have with your sub when you're working on your resolution. Okay, nevertheless, that was very good. I thank you. Anybody that does a transcript did very well. You have to understand that. Then when they get a high score and it matches, then they did very, very well. But any one session doesn't have much meaning. It's the long-term reliability that matters for precognition. Otherwise, you don't know whether you should take action or not. Okay. So that was Millie. Let's see. Okay, Evelyn. Okay, good. You're right side up too. 2 in a row. Oh, what happened there? Oh, I must have clicked. Okay, Evelyn, why don't you tell us? Um, let's see. I don't see. You didn't send me your numbers. Oh, there they are. No, you just said tree tall. Where are your confidence rankings? Here they are. 4.5 and 2.5. So tell us about your 4.5. What led you, to give that the 4.5? Are you with us, Evelyn? Do you have a mic? I see you're in the chat box at 2:36. Maybe Evelyn left. This one's going longer than usual. No, there you are. Okay, I see your mic. I just don't hear you, Evelyn. Okay, yeah, try it again. Well, I guess we're not going to be able to hear you. In the past, I know you've been able to talk.
Can you hear me?
Now I hear you. Yep. Now you're fine.
I just unplugged the mic and plugged it back in. I don't know what was wrong.
Okay.
Yeah, so I have a question that maybe has occurred to other people too. With the FIG, This is the first time that I had a fig. Both figs had actually aspects of both pictures, I felt like, although the A was big and the B was little. So I did add it in for the B, but what do you do if, do you add the fig only to one side? I don't
No,
know what to do.
you score them independently. In other
So
words,
that 4/10, should that have been added to the B, even though it was a small B? Because I didn't, it's still a small number, the
well,
2/5.
if it's a partial fig, yeah, I would only give it like half as much.
Okay, that was what I didn't
Yeah,
know, if I should give it a 2/10 and
yeah,
give the other one a 1/10. Okay, I will
yeah.
next time. It
Yep.
wasn't enough to change the scoring, but I thought, gosh, that's the first time, because usually one fig is totally for one side, one fig is totally for the
Right,
other.
right.
And this time it kind of fit both of them, although a whole lot more the first side. Right from the get-go, I really felt like the first site was the one, the gestalts and the
Uh-huh.
and an ideogram, and what I was seeing to the spinning, I think, was the spinning of the water and on that
Yep,
rock in the middle, and
yep.
then the airiness and the fogginess of the water, the airiness of the coming up, and then I put plant-like materials because I felt like I was seeing trees at a distance, and
Yep.
I didn't want to say trees, so I put plant-like. And
Yep.
then
And that's
and
good.
then when I asked myself to go inside the scene, and I saw this concentric rings type thing, and so I was thinking it was maybe a log laying down in the forest. But if you look at that picture, there's kind of on the right side, on the cliff there's kind of a round dot, and that could be something that kind of looks like concentric. Yeah. Keep moving towards the right a little bit with your mouse, and up a little. Can you see that round? Yeah,
Okay,
there.
yeah.
It
Uh-huh.
might have been that, or just could have been the lines, the
Mm.
geological lines there in the cliff, maybe, was what I was seeing for A. But I also gave it more B just because that kind of looked like the shape of the building.
The tall building, but this at the bottom,
Yeah, that at the
yeah,
bottom. But
looks
the
more
base
like
of the
the A.
building is kind of odd. And so I just thought, okay, I gave
Okay.
it a B, but I really felt like it fit the A more, but I didn't. Since all the other drawings fit the A so much better. And then I asked for the emotional and spiritual aspects, and I got a landscape at the distance with northern lights in the sky. And of course,
Mm.
I'm from Alaska, so I think that way. I wouldn't think of a lagoon like our other guy did.
Uh-huh.
And I didn't get that water idea, but then the last thing was the wispy cottony moving in the breeze, and it was outdoors. And so I was pretty sure we had a landscape with trees in it. And so it pretty much seems to fit, even though I didn't get the idea that it was a canyon with water.
Right, right. No, very nice. And I like the way you laid it out with the A's and B's. You have building here. Was that A? No,
Yeah,
that A must go for this stuff, not for the
no,
building.
I write that down in that side, so I know what the pictures were,
Ah, to
because when I'm
remind you, I see the
looking at
building.
it later, I like to know what the pictures were, even the one
Right.
we're not supposed to remember.
Okay. No, that's, yeah. Okay.
So that's written after the fact.
Yeah. Well, what you're supposed to do is what'll ever get you a high hit rate.
Well,
Make
that's
you
what I'm
feel good.
trying to
Yeah.
do. I
Well, and you
start
are. I heard what you said before, so that's really good. That's really good. And there's
thank you.
definitely learning that goes on here. And that's one of the important messages is you can teach yourself, you can get better, you're powerful enough to do that.
And I see that my ideogram was almost the same as Lori's, and I didn't get to see the first site, Judge, because I was having so much trouble with my scanner. I don't like it that my other scanner won't work, and so it took me quite a while to get this thing to scan. So I didn't even get to see the first site because it was off the screen before.
Oh, I
The
see.
first one you judged, it was off the screen before I got mine done. But because quite often I'll see similar things in my drawings to things other people did, and that's always fun.
Uh-huh. That is fun.
Thank you, and I hope everybody had a happy new year.
Yes, no, thank you. Let me make sure I got that right. It was
And I
4.5. I lost it. It was 4.5 and what, Evelyn?
4.5 and 2.5.
Okay. I want to be sure I'm
That
using
I use that CR chart, to get the
right.
numbers, final numbers. And I liked your talk today because it kind of fit with I don't make New Year's resolutions, but I've had an art project sitting there unfinished for 3 months. I've been kind of working on it. I did an all-nighter. I didn't go to bed till 6 o'clock, but I finished it, and it feels really good because it looks really good. It's a lesson, but it was something I was stuck on, and I got 2 or 3 other things I got to finish this week, like my rejudging things that was supposed to be done the end of December, and so I really took to heart what you had to say.
Okay, well, thank you. Thank you. Okay. I should have a rotate. See, this is the one where it does let me rotate. Very good. Picture manager. Let me see if I can make this a little bigger here. I can. Okay, very good. Anita.
Hi.
Hi. So you gave, see, I don't have you in my table yet. So
I'm
let's,
always the one with the opposite.
now, okay, you got to talk to your subconscious, and you have that feeling, and that feeling comes from fear. Actually, that one makes sense, that, you fear of being wrong, and so you're getting opposite.
Funny, I don't feel like I'm wrong. that I only feel that when I get the result.
Well, it's interesting, yeah. And it's not wrong, it's just not the right word. You're tuning in, but
yeah, but I think the thing is not to be too self-confident.
well, there's so much. All of this does make you a
yeah.
better person. Looking in
Yes, you
and
always
building
learn.
up. Okay, but what did you get for the confidence ranking for A? Oh, 3 point. That's A. Yeah.
For A, I got 3.23, and for B, I got 5.51.
Okay, so I'll make it 3.25. And this one is that 5.5?
5.51.
Yeah. Okay. 5.51. Very nice, though. Okay, so let's talk to me about the 5.51. Convince me that that's that good.
Okay, basically the first impression I got was a square with lots of little, almost like dots or windows, or
Oh, that's up here.
and then came through the sort of like the movement like the river, but overall I got like an office feel, a dressy feel, people with suits and attaché cases, and
Oh, you did get that. Oh, yeah, there's your
really
people.
office feeling, and like something radiating. And I saw there in the picture at the back of the building, it almost looks like I don't know if it's a Wi-Fi tower or whatever, but I felt like some kind of technical radiation thing.
Uh-huh.
Easily pick up vibrations and things like that. But weirdly, I also got the river. But definitely the office feel thing came a lot stronger, came through to me.
Show me about the river. Is this the river here?
Yes,
here
that is.
and here.
I felt like movement, flow, bluish, like almost like something being transporting feel, like almost like a boat or some kind of movement.
Yeah, well, that certainly goes with this one, but that got you up to 3.2.
Yes, but the office feel to me came through a lot stronger, and the people aspect.
Correct. But that's why you gave the Gestalt there a 1. The water, did you get anything that like canyon? Well, Well, see, notice if you
I
had
got
raised this to a 1, this would probably come
mm,
up.
yes. At the bottom there, I got something like height, but it was more like it didn't feel natural to me.
So you've got
Um,
green here, palm tree.
yes, yes, but even though it came through green and like a palm tree, it was more the height that hit me. And it though it was green, it didn't feel natural.
Okay, I understand. And there are a lot of things that are green that are that shape that are not natural. So,
Yes,
right.
yes.
Okay. Um, okay, very good. I'm with
I don't know.
with you
I
here.
noticed the drawings that I get, the shapes and
Hmm.
things are usually the more accurate than my descriptions.
Right. And that's why you're like this. So this, in that sense, matches that. I mean, look at the from right there. You
Yeah,
it
yeah, it
almost looks
does.
like it's coming
It
out.
does.
Um,
Yeah.
you know, uh, look. Thank you. You did it. And you obviously struggled a little bit with it, and you explained why you did what you did. Whether or not um, those explanations make sense is
Mm.
at feedback time. You'll remember a lot of this,
Yes, yes,
and that then
yes.
you'll hopefully learn and communicate down with your subconscious and all that to
Yeah, feedback is the best way to learn.
right now. One of the things which it's almost a question more than a statement is
Mm.
how do you all feel? But I've got you here, Anita. How do you feel about giving your subconscious the suggestion that it really only describe those things which are very different um, and
Mm.
only unique to this. You know, we're looking at both of these now, and of course that's why some people like independent judging. But you know, you see millions of pictures and things like that, and it's the feedback session where you're going to put in all the energy associated with this. Um, and yet we often see, just like you did here, we get too many elements of both. And
Mm.
sometimes I'm wondering, and I don't know the answer to this, if it isn't really clear whether or not a pass is in order. Um, you know, and we don't make it easy to do that because we wanted you to do exactly what you did
Mm.
here. And in
Mm.
the box, you would put the two numbers. But that's just an open question for all you to mull and come up with on yourself. That there might be times when there's enough uncertainty, even though the numbers came out like this and different, that you can say, you know what, my intuition is telling me on this one there it should be a pass because I'm not real comfortable. Anyway, you can see the thoughts that are going through my head, and I just share them all with you. That's what I do. Okay, so here, okay, so that's everybody. And you guys did just really right in putting this up here because when a month from now I find them, I will look for 700976 is the number to look for. Okay, so we did everybody. Let me bring over my spreadsheet. And it's just, Anita, just your comments were just so funny about being opposite because here you are. Right.
And the weirdest thing is with the group predictions, I saw sometimes the group is uh, I'm the opposite than the group, and the group was wrong. So you can't really say
No, you can't.
go
You
against my own
absolutely,
intuition.
and that's why I say this ultimately comes out to be very personal. And I've
Yes.
had situations like that where this will be the one that's right, that's wrong. But as the group manager, it's sort of
No, that's your
clear
decision.
that as a group prediction, which goes in the record, remember, we're actually also performing a interesting experiment that's never been done before, and that is for month-long predictions, how well are we doing? And we're not statistically significant yet, but that's where we're headed. And so as a group prediction, it's very clear that in this case, its prediction is, in spite of Anita,
Sorry, Morty.
but I think and the rest of you ought to know, it's rare that everybody comes down on one side when we have, 7 people like this. So, in fact, to have 6 on one side and 1 on the other, and having so many 5s and 4s is pretty good, actually. Okay, so prediction is photo site A. And we don't even know what that is yet. And that's the next step. So we have made a prediction. It's photo site A. But the way the system works, everything is kept as blind as possible for as long as possible. Notice we didn't even see these pictures until after not only remote viewing was done, but believe it or not, they weren't chosen until I put in the dummy transcript. So the fact that you were getting so much good stuff says you're psychic. Now you've got to be psychic, most of you, on the right side, because I may or may not trade with this. The same with you. So, saying that, what I want to do is go back. So it's photo site A. Let's find out what photo site A is. And the way we do that is we put in, there are an awful lot of 5s. I'm going to put that up to a 5. And I'm going to make this a 3.5, which says it's wagerable, but, and that's because you got a 5, Anita. But I think as the group manager, this is sort of reasonable, right? And if this was a 4.5, I couldn't tell the difference at this point. So let's see what I want to write here. We actually had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, 5 viewers predicted photo site A with CR equal 4 to 5.5. 1 viewer for PSB. No, just 5 with 5.5. Okay. With 5.5 equals CR.
What's the NASDAQ running, Marty? Is it anywhere near 7,000?
Yeah, I'll show you that. I was surprised, and it crossed the 7,000 number. That's why I went through it. It's sort of significant when they cross those numbers psychologically for certain people. Okay, but I'll show you that. But let's do one thing at a time here. So here we're going to do. So I'm going to submit this. So this is what you would do in your group for any of the brand newbies. You would put in your CRA and your CRB. You put in a comment, and these comments are important, and they're for you. You would have access to them, and that's the way our program works, is you get access to all this data. And then you hit submit, and it's a yes. So what came up here was, we now know that photo site A was the one that was associated with yes. We certainly have enough good reason to believe that that's the correct one. So we've now made a prediction for yes on that. And let me I want to go back here. And right here, I'm able to put, remember, will the NASDAQ composite over 7,000? So that's a yes. I do want to put, so I can find it, 976.
Question is it under 7,000? You just said over. So which is, so
it's
the
under.
question is under.
Under,
yeah.
yeah.
You just said over when you read it.
Did
so
I?
That's a totally different answer.
Okay. Correct. The correct thing is what I wrote here, because that was clearly the intention, and that was the way the photographs were set up. So we'll close under 7,000, and we can take a quick look at it. In fact, I just never got a chance to put the chart in. And here, see 7,000. Here's a NASDAQ. And I think let's use the 6 months, and we can get it big so you can see it. There we go. So you can see it just here. Here it is for the last 6 months. And this is the price. Down here it's 5,500. So here's 6,000. Here's 7,000. As I think all of us now know, the markets have been going up rather dramatically, apparently 25% last year, which is rather remarkable, very unusual. And so the question is, will it continue? And that was the question. And we asked, will it be under 7,000? So our prediction basically is, we don't know what's going to happen between now and a month from now, but that it's going to go down, so that it's not going to continue like that, because then it would obviously be well above 7,000. So there you go. But that's why I chose this one. It was just sort of interest because of the 7,000. And again, I say for psychological reasons, a lot of people consider that to be important, some traders. And is there anything else I need to do? I think that's it. So you understand the prediction. You understand that it's for under, and you understand we won't know the outcome for another month. So we did it. Congratulations. And now I need to find my PowerPoint. Any other questions or comments or anything like that? And then we'll try to finish. We'll finish this off here.
Can you just say for the record, just in summary, again, what the initial question was,
yes,
and what our prediction is?
Yes. The initial question was, will the NASDAQ Composite Index be under 7,000? And the month from now date I chose was February 5. And we said the answer is yes, it will be under. And all of that is recorded here, which is where we're keeping track of everything and then keeping track of what are hits and misses. Okay, so here you can see the question here, under 7,000 on February 5, and it'll be actualized on February 5. And, okay, so, you know, this fact that life is rather wonderful, and yeah, I know there's some people out there who it isn't, but for most of us, certainly here, you know, if you're able to come to webinars like this, you really should love life. And no matter what your situation is, hopefully you can love life. I mean, you're living it. Love your consciousness. And not only for 2018, I really do wish forever for all of you. May all your wishes come true. And in particular, do really consider taking on your ARV resolution at whatever level you put serious. Because if you that mindset will help make it be true, for one thing, plus going through the dialogues with the inner self, watching yourself when things like fears in one form or another um, come up, work it and work with your sub to work through it. Why am I fearful? Why would fear have anything to do with me having a high hit rate? The time you mostly do this, and some people do it, just during other parts of their life, but mostly the feedback session is the time you get to do the learning, because you have the truth in front of you. You have your session, you have your memories of the session, and you can kind of get ideas on, when you get hits, all of that really worked well. That's great. I'm going to keep doing more of that, sub. Thank you. But you should always ask your sub, there's always a little something else. I didn't get as many colors as I would like, and that's a good time to work to do even better. And when you get misses, that's a time to work with your sub too, of course. You'll be looking at a feedback picture which is not like your transcript and, wasn't the winner. And ask yourself, what can I do to do better next time, sub? What's going on? Gee, did I judge it wrong? And you might think a little bit about reviewing that at a low level, but also then say, sub, oh, look, I wish we had gotten this, and communicate that to your sub, quietly. Like, this is how I see that water rushing. This is how we could have done that tall building. And also add to your transcript, or a lot of people do it on a new sheet of paper. They'll actually do like another whole session, one that they wish they had done. And you can very quickly, if it was a building, put that tall building with a lot of the windows in it and the ground and blue for the sky. And it's kind of amazing how when you are looking at it, it doesn't take much to make it be enough to distinguish it. And that's what you're passing on to your sub. Give me enough information so the judge, it'll be really clear which is the correct one, and hopefully at a level of a 5 or so, or more. Okay, so with that, I not only for 2018, I wish you healthy, wealthy, and wise lives, and keep precogging. Comments, questions? This ends the webinar. See you next time. Yeah, Dave, thank you. Yes, thank you all. You have to realize that this is work which I enjoy, I've taken on, and I couldn't do it without you. So I very sincerely thank all of you for just staying active and participating in this work. Take care. I will end it now. And do keep precogging.